Meeting to order, and let's do introductions and from Pusey Port of Umatilla.
Joe Taylor, Baltimore.
John Schaefer, Umatilla County. JD, CTYR.
Jeff Winhoff, Morrow County Commissioner. Raymond Hughes, C2R Board of Trustees.
Paul Rabb, C2IR.
Jerry Simpson, Port of Umatilla.
Don Russell, CDA Budget Committee member, I guess.
Craig Smith, CDA.
Again,
For tomorrow, Lisa Melcher for tomorrow. Kelly Doherty for tomorrow.
and those online, not Emily.
Yeah, we got two. We have Aaron Palmquist and David Sykes.
Aaron Palmquist. City of Oregon.
All right, no one else? Thank you. Hello.
David.
Yeah, Dave Sykes here. All right. First item on the agenda is the consent agenda.
Mr. Pusey,
Yes, sir.
I don't want to step on anybody's toes here, but I am the chairman of the budget
Yeah,
committee.
and that,
So-
and I'm really glad you said that because I was questioning that and looking for that.
Okay.
And so, thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
really
Great.
appreciate it so
Yeah,
much.
no problem. So we got the call of order and introductions done. Consent agenda, item A is to review the minutes from the previous budget committee meeting. 3A, we have the draft CDA budget, also included as a breakdown of the fees for the public records request, and then some information on fringe benefits. And then we'll have discussion and then adjourn. If everyone's good with the agenda, anybody want to add anything to that? Okay, look for a motion.
Sure to approve the agenda.
Second. Motion by JD to approve, second by Don Russell. All those in favor, say aye. Opposed, same, okay. Great, so we will, let's look at the minutes real quick. Give everybody a minute or so to look through the minutes, they're pretty short. And look for a motion to approve
I
minutes.
had one question.
Sure.
So where Mr. Tubby asked for the audit, the last item in our conversations on the second page, did that get included on this agenda? Is that item 4 that we're talking about?
It should be during your regular,
And it is.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
Okay,
sorry,
all right, thank you.
thanks.
Move we approve the minutes.
Okay, motion by Jerry Simpson,
Second,
second by Ken Pusey. All in favor of the minutes? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same. Yep, minutes approved. Thank you, guys. Okay, I'm just gonna give a quick highlight on the budget and then I'll turn it over to Greg and Emily to go through it in more detail. Greg and Emily had sent me the budget probably about 10 days ago for comments. I just made a few little comments. They made some changes. I don't think it's really relevant to the discussion. I think they just tightened it up a little bit, made it so it's a balanced budget. So I will turn it over to Mr. Smith. Or,
Sure.
okay,
Sure. The folks will return to this budget. This is the form we have historically used with the OLBCC. The first portion of the budget relates to personnel services. You'll notice that there are 3 positions: an executive director, an administrative executive, and a project coordinator. Currently, Emily is serving both as the administrative executive and the project coordinator. Total personnel services is $495, $285. In addition to that, the Portomoro historically has served as a grant payroll manager. You can see the nominal salary that they've been charging us. You go down to materials and services. In the original budget, I pretty much zeroed out executive travel expenses. Mr. Chair, I believe you suggested that we put a few dollars back in there, which we have done. The land insurance of $33,416 is an actual cost. Legal support services, you can see the breakdown there of land use, CTIR, Cleaver Farms, real estate leases, contracts, public records requests, utility master plan, and other. And then also the Umatilla County litigation. And the one thing I would point out to you is the public records request, as budgeted, is approximately $97,000. The board has made a policy decision to not charge for public records. And so that is the legal services of making sure that each and every public records request is reviewed by council. The rest are costs associated with primarily with what Schwab Williamson and White charges us. Planning support services, that's primarily IRZ office, and they serve as our engineer of record, which is critical as we proceed forward with projects as it relates to construction and installation of utilities. You'll notice that office rent expense is $34,883. This is an expense that the Portomoro charges us for our space here and for utilization of building space within this building. One other item that may draw your attention is membership and dues. One of the things that I found important was to make sure that the CDA is a member of our local chambers of commerce. It's our audit services of $20,000. And then the old BCC grant agent of $89,000 for a total of $816,347. You'll notice capital outlay. This is primarily, it is related to the road. One is the $7 million, of which we anticipate $2,197,000 will be spent this year. And then with that road, we anticipate spending approximately $1,666,000 of the $5 million that has been allocated to UEC for utility development. Mr. Chair, that is my report.
Yeah, could I ask a couple questions, Mr. Chair?
sure. Go ahead, Mr. Schicker.
Item line 23, legal support services for $85,904. What's that one for again?
It's labeled as 85 or as real estate lease. And that's just how they label it. Oh, sorry, there's 2 more people. That's how they label it. When they send us their billing, but I can pull it up just to.
Oh, I see. Who's they?
Oh, Elizabeth, Schwabi.
Okay.
And it's primarily land leases that we've attempted to put together real estate tails transactions we've attempted to put together, but have fallen through when brought before the board.
And number 39, the grant agent, is that?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
sorry, that was requested at the last meeting, I believe by C2IR, the 10%, just to represent whoever would manage our VR fiscal agent next time. That's what was discussed, would be the anticipated
Okay.
percentage off the top of the grant,
Off of what grant?
off of the old CC grant, and I just put that in there based off our previous conversation. That definitely,
So if I could, so the old DCC grant agent was just for the old DCC grant management or for fiscal agent?
No, so this represents 10% of the previous grant. At the previous budget meeting, you recommended we put this budget line item in there for whoever's going to service the CDA in the future. The Port of Morrow has made it clear that they're not going to.
Right, exactly. I agree, but I guess my point on that is this is listed as oil DCC grant agent rather than fiscal agent for the
We can change
organization.
the title.
yeah, I
We're
think
just
you're
trying to be clear.
Right, and because so out of that then too is the grant payroll manager, grant payroll, so that type of stuff that has been provided by the CDA. So, or the Port of Morrow, would that, some of those costs for administration should be covered by the fiscal agent contract.
Okay.
That would be, yeah, if that's what's negotiated.
Right.
The trouble with having that number in there is you're not gonna have a number on the other page. For the
Correct.
OLCC grant.
Correct.
So why would we put it in there now?
So I guess that's a conversation we need to have, because
Yeah, I mean, I think we were basing this budget based upon the OLCCD grant moving forward. So, you guys don't have to approve the budget today. We can take this in, and review it. And then during your regular board meeting, you could say, at this time, we don't want to approve it. We need to see how our revenues are going to come in and adjust the budget accordingly.
so are you saying the grant won't be there next year?
That's right. The best information I have. Is that it won't be.
I take it the meeting didn't go well.
Well. We haven't, go ahead.
Well,
Mr.
excuse me,
Chair.
yeah, I actually don't want to get into this discussion too much during this meeting.
That's fair.
I think you guys should do that during your regular board meeting.
Okay.
So, definitely we can defer the budget. I think this is a good starting point. I think there's a few items I'd like to see added before, and it won't be completed today because I just don't think we're gonna have time to do it. So let's stay focused on the budget and then you guys can have your board meeting today. We can get some direction on revising the budget after that.
So, Mr. Chair, on line item 39, where it said OLEDC grant agent, would you like us to continue to keep that line in there and eliminate those services that the Port of Morrow has been charging us for? Or would you like for us to keep the Port of Morrow services in there and reduce fiscal? How would you like? us
Yeah,
to
no,
do
we
that?
should just eliminate the Port of Morrow line items that are in there.
Okay.
And then just change it to OLCC, or just change it to fiscal agent. We can take out the OLDCC.
Okay.
Because whether you have that money or not, the organization still should be charging for some kind of administrative fee.
Okay, so
Whoever's
just to
doing the
be
books.
clear, line item 8 and 9 will be eliminated.
Yep.
Now, let me continue to go through here. Am I missing anything else?
Mr. Chair, so the 89,000 that's in that, I mean, so I can see where and I just threw the 10% out there as like something to cover the cost. I don't know what a fiscal agent would cost to manage it. So I know in our system, we have fiscal agents for like 10% of whatever we're carrying. And so that's why I threw out the 10%, but this 10% was based off the OLDCC grant, which is where I presume where the OLDCC grant agent came from.
Yeah.
But if it's a fiscal agent, I don't know what percentage or what would that, I don't know what it costs will be for a fiscal agent.
Well, I think
Right.
10% is a pretty
Yeah.
good number.
But this is based off 10% of the OLDCC grant,
Yeah.
which is only a portion of the budget.
It should be 10% of the budget.
Of the total budget.
Of the
Yeah,
total
of the total budget,
Yeah.
not just the grant. Because you don't know where you're gonna have money coming in from, so whatever the budget is.
So did you want to go through these line by line to adjust what we think we're gonna get, or?
I think that would be,
I'm attending a meeting.
I feel like that would be direction from, the board during the regular board meeting to push that back. That's what I feel like. Cause I think we have to come up with options. I mean, if you're really not gonna get the LDCC grant, then I think there's a lot bigger things to worry about than just a budget at the moment.
Right,
Um,
right.
so I think we just defer the budget until further discussion. I mean, I think you have to have a starting point, right?
Mhm.
So I think this is the starting point. I think until you decide how you want to move forward with or without having a grant, and that's, I think, a bigger discussion. But I mean, would the other board members want to dive into that? Like, you know, we can have that discussion. I just don't think that it's appropriate to have that at the moment.
I'm comfortable waiting. Yeah. But it was,
Aren't
that
there
being
a
said, we
few-
are gonna have that discussion in the regular meeting, is that safe to assume?
It is on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
But how much detail of this do you want to get in on our regular business? Is the thing.
Well, we can definitely get into the detail if people have questions on the detail. Yeah, I don't have, I mean, after reviewing it and then, Mr. Smith provided us some detailed ledgers so we can kind of see what those costs were. And then Portomoro gave us what the estimated fringe were. Those were some of the questions on the minutes. There were some other questions, but those, like the utilities, but there's no utilities on here. So,
Yeah,
But-
Well, that's
so,
covered as. Go ahead.
so it was previously labeled utilities and I didn't feel like that was accurate, so I labeled it as land, power, gate repairs and, surveying and, that power would be that utility.
okay.
Cause it's the only utility we have.
Yep.
That's
Is
an
that
annual
okay?
figure, $577 for power?
It's the total of, what we've been paying, we just have one light bulb out there, so.
Yeah, that's for the gate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm anticipating that going up. but I-
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so-
Significant.
Yeah, we have one development.
So here's a question I would have.
Sure. Go ahead, go.
Is on, audit services. We've got are we required to have another audit?
Yes,
Later on?
yes, for the US Army.
Okay. And 20,000 seems like a lot. I know that's what we paid last time. That seems like a lot.
I mean, just share,
Yeah.
Gilmore Development runs about 14,000.
And do they base that on gross numbers, gross income, or how many checks you write a month?
You know, Debbie was, she was here when they did, I wasn't here when they did the bidding for that. But I can find that out. We do
Okay.
have a contract that probably has that detail.
Okay.
And Joe, I would not say that 20,000 is really that far out of line. I understand that's a lot of money
Yeah.
for such a nominal budget. But at the end of the day, these folks are assuming risk. The auditors are.
Yeah. Okay.
But if you have, excuse me, Emily, if you guys have bid that out, then we should just have the actual cost in there
Okay,
of what it is.
okay.
Is that a multi-year contract or just a single one-off?
I,
Just one.
yeah, we have requested the next one from her. But since it's tax season, that nothing will happen until after taxes, obviously, so, we do have time to change that.
Okay.
Before we do another one, I think.
So really, all these other expenses are just kind of sitting in a holding pattern until we figure out how much money will come in.
But you determine your revenue stream.
Yeah. And is any of that up for discussion today?
So on the agenda today, the Portomoro has offered a resolution for consideration to allow
Right.
the
But
sale of property.
that's the next meeting.
Correct.
Yeah.
And not in this.
Okay. Not in this. Cause I just assumed we were just gonna discuss like this OLDCC. That it's not gonna be there.
It's gone.
So why aren't we just assuming now it's not gonna be there, other than you just taking my word for it?
Well, this is the first really heard officially, but it's not.
Yeah.
So,
And I mean, I would say if you're not gonna have that, then you've got some serious financial issues that you may not even need a budget. I mean, you know,
Right,
you may
yeah.
not have any staff, you may not even need a budget.
Well, it's important to understand, Mr. Chair, that the CDA is land rich and has the ability to liquidate assets
Yes.
to cover its expenses.
Yep.
So also on there, just for future discussion, you know, yeah, your land rich, that is not on here. Any land sales, and
The
I
board
think at
is,
some point it should be,
if the
if we
board,
get there in the next meeting. So maybe I'm putting the cart in front of the horse here.
I do have
Okay.
it as a line
Yeah.
item, it's just empty because we just don't know.
Yeah.
There's been no agreement on how much we're gonna price it for or anything like that.
Yeah, Joe, so the original budget that they had me look at had land sale on there.
Okay.
And I said, because the board had not approved any land sale, that it shouldn't be on there. And really, when the board does approve a land sale, you should have also approved how those funds are gonna be used when you do that land sale. So everyone understands that it's gonna get sold. Here's how these funds are gonna be appropriated. You should just do it all at that time. But you also have, you know, you may have a little, you're gonna have some financial issues here if you,
Yeah.
you know, if you don't have a grant, and it's not like you can sell land in 24 hours. So
Exactly.
you need to think about that a little bit. from
Okay.
Board perspective on how you want to handle that. So I do think I would look at this budget as a fairly basic operational budget that I don't think could change a whole lot without either major staffing changes or, you know, that's the only way I really see it. Obviously, if you had major staffing changes and the CDA's authority shrunk quite a bit, then maybe you don't have as much legal until it gets brought back up. But I mean, I see this as a pretty basic operational budget. I don't see a lot of
It's
stuff
very
that could be
basic.
cut out of it.
It's very basic.
minor question.
Yeah,
On
sure.
the third column, it says adopted budget this year, 24-25. We don't have an adopted budget, correct?
Yeah, that's just the standard wording that came with the template. I could definitely change that and take that off. I just wanted to show what
Yeah,
our
yeah.
previous years look like.
Yeah,
Where are you looking?
the third column.
Oh, they're calling, I was thinking
Yeah.
that line.
Yeah,
I think this was a form that was
Right, yeah.
OLDCC form.
Mhm.
or, not all these, the
Oh.
Department of Revenue,
Yeah,
just their standard.
Oh, okay.
I figured, I just want to make sure it was clear.
That's a pretty standard form, I think. All special districts in the state use this.
Use the same form.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any other questions as far as detailed line items?
So if we could be clear on the resources, line item number 1, grant income OLBCC for 891,623, we're gonna eliminate.
I think you're probably gonna eliminate it after the board meeting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the direction the board gives you.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm
I'm
go ahead.
I
Joe.
would say, has anything changed on your igloo leases? Nothing more, nothing less,
not that time.
obviously, but.
Same, so far, the same people have carried over
Mhm.
Correct.
from last year.
Another question. So the 8-9, the OLDCC grant, is that, it's April to April, right? Is that April 24-25 that we've lost, or April 25-26 that we've lost?
So we haven't even applied for 25 to 26.
So this is 24-25. So this is last year's grant.
So it would stop whenever they,
February 21st.
yeah, so right.
So there is a
before,
portion of it.
just a small portion
Okay.
that wouldn't be covered.
Okay.
Yeah, so because this budget, I'm sorry for jumping in there. This budget is for January through December. Is that correct? No.
June to,
All special districts in the state of Oregon operate on the June 30 fiscal year.
Okay. So this budget that we're doing is going to take effect July 1 of
July.
25. Okay,
So we got a little time.
yeah, we do have
Yeah.
time.
To figure things out.
So the first, second column, income, the 748, 850. For the 716, the 192, that's 22, 23, 23, 24, and the 857, 330. That's, we're gonna lose 3 months off that. Out of that number,
Which one are you?
set third column, adopt, the budget this year, 24, 25.
Right.
The 857. But that's from April 24 to April 25. But the grant was ended in February 20. So that number needs to be updated as well.
So I guess that makes, and I don't know if this is the right time for this question or next meeting, but are we sending back all 857, 330, or are we retaining some?
Okay, we didn't receive anything. It's all been reimbursement. We haven't been reimbursed since June 30. Okay, so as of June 30, we were reimbursed 180,520. And I will be submitting a request in the next couple of days for 402,203. So that is a total of 582,723.
So what's the likelihood of them saying yes to reimbursing that 400 and some $1,000?
We've been told that we can submit all expenses through February 21st.
Submit them, but does that mean you can submit them and we will pay them, or you can submit them and we will look at it to whether or not we're gonna pay them?
You know, we have taken out the retroactive pay. We've taken out the vacation pay that was paid out on retirement, I guess. We have, I mean, we won't know until we know, but we've not been given any impression that it's gonna be anything other than processed as normal. And John, that's what he told me.
And who he is?
Michael.
Okay, thank you.
Like, if I could, so I'm trying to read the numbers. So with that change in that number, does that flip our numbers for 24, 25, which requires a carry forward of?
No, because that's just what you budgeted, what you thought this year was going to look like.
Right.
It's kind of irrelevant.
It,
Budget document.
it goes back to actuals.
So,
Yeah. Yep. You gotta think about your budgeting now, you're trying to put together a budget from July 1st moving forward. Any comments from Mr. Simpson or Mr. Winholtz? On line items? Okay. Joe?
I think I'm good for a while.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. Mr. Boozy?
Because it's a proposed budget, it's just a moving document. I'm sure that we're gonna have more changes after our meetings.
Yeah. Russell?
No, I think what the next meeting is going to determine a lot of what happens.
Yes, I agree.
So.
I agree. Okay, a couple of things that I would like to have also prepared to approve the budget. I would like to have this approved by resolution. Because I think it's a document that should be approved by resolution. And within that resolution, since this organization doesn't have any fiscal management policies that kind of lay out who has authority for what, I think in that resolution that you should probably lay out in there that the executive director could have up to 5% approval to modify the budget. And anything above that 5% would need to have come back to the board to be approved. So that gives your executive director some flexibility. With an $800,000 budget, that's about 60,000 or so. So that's, you know, that's not bad. I think that gives the executive director enough to do that. So I think from a control standpoint, that, you know, the executive director can do what they need to do, but if it's something bigger than that, you come to the board and get approval for that.
Sure.
I also think that, if you're gonna have a travel budget for your executive director, that maybe in the resolution, it needs to say that travel needs to be approved by the board. I'm not sure if you have any policy on that or not, but I think you need to understand if the executive director, when the executive director is traveling and he's traveling on your budget and he's representing the CDA board. I think that that's important. So you know that.
Is that typical?
Yes, yeah, yep. I mean, within fiscal, Tribe has a big fiscal management policy. We have a lot of that kind of stuff laid out. So I think that I just feel like that's appropriate for the board to approve. I mean, you're approving your executive director to travel and represent you. So I think those are the two big items that I would see in the resolution as kind of directives for approval. You know, we, in the minutes, I had mentioned something about, you know, like, getting quotes on maybe different office space, stuff like that. But I really think that that's probably outside the budget process. It's more of managing your executive director and doing that during your regular board meetings. Maybe have some standing items that you could do. But, you know, not trying to tell you guys what to do. I'm just giving suggestions. So I would look to have a resolution. I think you would go through the board meeting today. Maybe the board can make a motion to redirect the budget committee to overview the budget. However, this is going to work out over today. And I guess we could have on the agenda, or, you know, put the budget committee on the agenda for the next meeting, CDA meeting at 1 o'clock, like we did today.
Have a budget committee prior to it, okay?
If that's all right with everybody. And then, you know, it gives Mr. Smith and Emily about a month to kind of get a plan put together, or the board members a month to put a plan together. Get a plan, we can do a budget. It's hard to do a budget without a plan.
Can you help me understand what you mean by plan?
I think a revenue plan,
Revenue plan.
right,
Perfect.
right.
Thank you.
Until you know what your revenues are, it's hard to
Perfect.
come up with a plan on how to spend them.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for budget? Is everyone fine with resolution approving a budget?
I think I only do have a question.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Because you're not required to follow state law, you can set the rules that you want and those rules could be acceptable. But just so you know, those are not the state law. State law is you cannot exceed any appropriation level item. You can't just say, oh, if you're over 5%, you can do by resolution and the adjustment up to 10% by action of the board. But as long as you're all okay with the fact that you're not trying to follow state law, you're just trying to get a budget, you can set the rules however you want to.
This, I think the state law would apply if you had state funding. Is that correct? Or no?
State law applies if you are a special district.
Special district.
Or a county, any sort of state government or subdivision thereof.
Okay.
And I guess because you are not a council of governments, you're a 190, but not a council of governments, then you are not subject to state budget law. And so you can set your parameters how you want to.
Okay.
But just so you know, if
Yeah.
you're following state law, you can't give him 5% leeway. You just set your budget higher, so he's got his room to make his, his moves, but, yeah, there's no state, mechanism to do that other than by resolution of the board.
Okay, well, thank you, Eileen, very much. And maybe once we get a draft resolution put together, maybe you could review it and make sure we're good with that. I would appreciate that. Please. Yes, Mr.
Just,
Busy.
and I'm happy to be corrected by Eileen, but typically what we do is just, you just give enough room that you don't have to do a supplemental budget. So you approve something that is slightly larger to give you a little bit of room with unanticipated events taking place, because nobody wants to go do a supplemental budget. I mean, that's
Right.
that's way more onerous.
Sure.
If we had in mind that it's 5%, well, then we just build a budget that's 5%. Larger to deal with that contingency.
Okay. Mr. Dovey.
Yeah, but I do want to make sure we still have controls. We don't have fiscal management policies, even if it's not required by the state law. I mean, this is a lot amount of dollars rolling around. And so just having just kind of internalized controls on how we actually manage approval levels, reviewed by the board, all those types of things. We don't really have those right now.
I'm just suggesting it because most of the people on the board are in a special district.
Right.
And so that's, I think, common practice is to give you a little bit of leeway so you don't have to do a supplemental budget afterwards.
Which I'm fine with. I just want to make sure we have that defined. If
Yeah.
it's not required us to follow the state law, then we need to still define that.
Yeah, I think, I guess I'm looking at it as, it's a catastrophic event happens, or something happens where you have a large economic opportunity, then I think the board wants to know that and then be able to have control of how to appropriate those funds.
Yeah.
So that's why I think 5% is a good number. That gives the executive director plenty. If he runs out of paper clips, he can run down and he can make a budget modification and do paper clips. So one extreme to the other. Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. Well,
Really quick.
Sure.
Does the board continue to be comfortable with the amount of money we're spending on public records requests? Or would they like to review their decision?
thank you, Mr. Smith. I think that, again, is not necessarily a budget question. I do think that's probably a regular board meeting question.
Correct.
And I think that could be an agenda item you guys can talk about, because that's a very large number. From a budget committee member number, I think that's a very large number, and I'd be very concerned about that.
And Mr. Chair, you asked me to put a plan together. Would you like this to be part of that plan for consideration?
I think it's going to need to be.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
And then the board can decide how they want to move forward.
Was there gonna be any discussion on these fringe benefits?
Only if someone want to talk about them. I mean, I reviewed them. I thought they were right in line. I go ahead, Eileen.
I think you have to determine who your new fiscal agent is
Mm-hmm.
and find out that.
Yeah, I mean, I think 40% is a good starting point. And again, that kind of gives, you're going to give your executive director some flexibility in the budget. So if he needs to move a little bit from one line item to cover fringe, it's 43% on your new fiscal agent, then he's going to have the ability to do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
It's a good starting point. Okay. Anything else, Mr. Smith? Are you good?
No, thank you very much. This is extraordinarily helpful, Hank. So thank you.
Yeah. So I look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by John Schaefer, second by Mr. Puzzi. To adjourn, all in favor of adjournment? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Staying. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll get a new budget put together for the next meeting.